All right, we'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome you to the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for 16th, 6:30, and I want to welcome all of you and those viewing on the Murray City streaming video feed, which could only be maybe one city staff person. Oh, not even Susan.
She may be viewing it from Europe.
So the commissioners here this evening, starting over on your right, Scott Woodbury, Lisa McKavick, Phil Markham, Travis Ney, and myself, Ned Hacker, and our staff up here in front, Zach Smallwood and Jared Hall. So a couple meeting guidance notes, and coming in the back door, Bryant Farnsworth is also on the city staff. Couple meeting guidelines: if you have electronic devices, we'd ask that you turn them off, and if you get a call, to respect the rest of the people in attendance and take that outside into the hallway. Respect the other people in attendance, and if you have public comment, we'll have you come up to the podium. Give you 3 minutes for public comment. If you're speaking for a group, we'd allow you 5 minutes. So with that, we'll go to item number 1, which is approval of the minutes from our May 2nd meeting. And commissioners had an opportunity to look at those. Have any comments?
They looked good.
Nope. Look good.
All right. I entertain a motion from you to accept those.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the Thursday, May 2nd, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
All right. I have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
A second. Any opposed? Or, excuse me. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Great. Second item, conflict of interest. Any commissioners have conflict of interest?
No.
No.
All right. Third item, approval of findings of fact from our May 2nd meeting. Have commissioners had an opportunity to look at those?
Yes.
They did. They looked good.
Any comments?
No.
All right. I'd entertain a motion to
Mr.
accept
Chairman,
those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the findings of fact before us. A conditional use permit for EOS Fitness to operate a fitness center at 5550 South 900 East, and a conditional use permit for Renaissance Services, which will have an asphalt services office located at 6170 South, 380 West, Unit 200.
All right. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. You got it.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So item number 4, Valley Behavior Health requesting conditional use permit to allow construction of a new building at the property address 6230 South 900 East. Is the applicant here for that? Okay, we'll have you come up in just a minute, and Jared Hall is going to give us a staff report.
Thank you. This is just by way of background for the public and for the record. This is a property that was recently rezoned from agriculture to RNB zoning. The residential neighborhood business zone is one that we use in the city in this area on 9th East and on Winchester Street to buffer residential areas further to the interior of large streets like 9th East and Winchester Street from those arterial collectors. We've done a number of buildings, reviewed a number of buildings. The new buildings always require the Planning Commission's approval for conditional use through the conditional use permit process, because there are several different things we want to look at and make sure that it's functioning well and performing the way that we want it to in the R&B zone. So the properties are actually 2 properties there. You can see Holly Avenue on the north side, and the 2 properties right here where the building will be built. These are the 2 that were rezoned to R&B. To the south is actually another building in the R&B zone, very similar in size and actually in look, as you'll see throughout the process here. And then we'll talk as we go through the staff report about the buffering on the west side. These are all residential properties to the west and to the north across Holly Avenue as well. So you can see the zoning there, R18 zoning. There's still some more agricultural zoning to the west. They're being used residentially, so we buffer them the same way. And then across the street, you can see agricultural zoning, Wheeler Farm here. Just a picture of the property. You can see kind of the south end right here with that fence and the RNB property to the south. And then these homes that you're seeing are the ones that we just were seeing in this photograph here. You're looking at that house right there as you look at this photograph, and then across Holly Avenue to the north. So this is the bulk of the property right here along 900 East. It's a site plan. This is a building about 7,600 square feet for the footprint. Situated in this kind of north corner of the building, or of the property rather, so that we can utilize the parking on the south and on the west, and we kind of maximize the area here. This whole west property line is buffered with the landscaped area and with an 8-foot masonry fence as required by the ordinance. This facility is for a program that Valley Behavioral Health offers for adults with autism. Most of these folks have aged out of other programs that they have, so they offer kind of day programs, life skills, how to get along, and do different things. So the building is set up very much like a school. There's areas for eating, and there's areas for break time. There's classrooms, craft rooms, that kind of thing. You'll see that in the footprints here. It is 2 stories. We can look at that in just a moment. This is the main floor plan. As you can see, the main entrance takes you to a lobby, and then most of the rest of the building is used up with office space, craft space. There's some exercise rooms, things like that. But the main lobby from the first floor, this is because, going back to the site plan, most of the folks that come here are not driving. In fact, I could probably say safely all of them are not driving. Nobody drives coming here. They're dropped off by parents, friends. There are a couple of programs that drop participants off here. There are employees, obviously, and they'll be using, most of the parking lot will be being used by employees, that we need. I think in discussing this as we went forward, we realized that we probably have overparked it for their needs as a facility, but facilities change hands and things, so we impose the normal parking regulations for the RNB zone. So it does meet those regs. They probably won't use all of that parking because most people that are participating are being dropped off at this porte cochere, the end of the building, and spend most of the day in programs inside the building. They do have a little patio area where they do some things on the west here, outside, but most of the programs happen inside. Second floor, again, it's more of the same, a little more open on the upper floor. Total building's just over 15,000 square feet with the 2 floors. This is the landscaping plan. I wanted to talk about kind of the buffering and Holly Avenue. So originally we were looking at circulation on the site, and there was some desire to use Holly Avenue for access. We advised against that as staff, and the applicants went along with us and eliminated that from their plans. We felt like keeping the traffic in and out of the site, although it's going to happen at 2 key times, in the morning and in the evening when they close. We felt like that was important to have the site development fit the goals and the objectives of the RNB zone that it's in. So there won't be any impact to Holly Avenue in terms of traffic from this site. And it's basically, you're going to see from Holly Avenue the building, and we'll see those elevations in a moment, a lot of landscaping, and then the sidewalk and curb and gutter, and it'll look very quiet from the Holly Avenue side. Again, landscape buffering all along this west property line, and that whole thing, and actually just wrapping a little bit, is that 8-foot masonry fence. Landscaping plans, actually, this is kind of rare for us too. This landscaping plan meets the requirements of the RNB zone and section 17.68. So we'll mail them some gold stars for that, because that rarely happens in the first round. This is a photometric plan. So what you're seeing basically is, in this parking lot, there are going to be lights. There are going to be some pole lights. They're 18 feet tall. That's the maximum we want to see in the RNB zone. They're all down-oriented, hooded, so that they don't light pollute or light spill over the property lines. We asked them to provide, and they did provide for us, a photometric plan that shows 0-foot candles along all of the property lines. So there shouldn't be any light spill from this property into the neighboring properties or onto Holly Avenue or anything else. So the parking lot will be lit and be safe, but you won't see any spillage across from that. So these are the elevations, just the architectural elevations, and I'll use this just to talk about a couple of quick things. Most of the building is residential in terms of its materials. We're using hardy board that's called weathered wood, so there'll be a kind of a wood look to it, and some stone veneer. Pitched roofs, which we like to look for in several different angles. A lot of shadow relief on the building. There's some structural staggering that helps it look more residential. That's what we always look for in this RNB zone, and all the right things are kind of happening in terms of the architecture for us. You're looking basically, this is the interior parking lot. As you look at the building, the porte cochere, this is the Holly Avenue side, 9th East, and the west side. Just to show you the building itself, again, this is kind of looking at the building at that south-facing elevation that faces the parking lot in 9th East here. This is the building that exists already to the south. on that same on the property that's R&B zone just immediately to the south. I'll have another shot of that in just a second. They're very similar in architecture, not the same, but similar in size, similar in scale, similar in massing, and that's kind of the look that was desired, and it's helping kind of make that pattern along 9th East work in the R&B zone. This is the Holly Avenue side, or sorry, yeah, this is looking at the Holly Avenue side and 9th East here. So that's the interior parking lot. And again, just wanted to show you that building that exists there. This building's going to sit right here. So you're going to see very much a kind of a repeated pattern of those two office buildings in the parking lots to the south of them. We are recommending approval. State code does say that we should approve all conditional uses as long as they are meeting the standards that we have, meeting our codes, and doing the things that we find necessary as a planning commission to mitigate the negative impacts. The R&B zone as a zone is designed to do exactly that. They're meeting the standards of the R&B zone, and so they are by default, to staff's opinion, meeting those standards for mitigating impacts and should be granted a conditional use permit. We are recommending the following conditions, 1 through 13. Hours of operation is the last one. We allow in the R&B zone operation between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. This particular building is not going to be in use that late. Those are just the hours that we allow in the R&B zone. They finish up programs at 5, 6 o'clock, and there won't be anybody here after that. It's another thing that we look for is quiet uses that don't have a lot of after-hours need or traffic need, and this does fit the bill for those. So staff is recommending approval with adherence to these 13 conditions. Any questions for me at this point?
Jared, we talked briefly about the staff to student ratio and that. Could you?
1 to 2. There's 1 staff person for every 2 participants in the program. Participation in the program fluctuates. Anywhere the building's designed to handle up to 50 students, participants, if you want to call them that. So, but that ratio is always going to be 1 to 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? So on condition number 1, bullet point number 3, it says I have to replace any damaged sidewalk along Holly Avenue.
Yeah.
Does that include the current curb cut? Is that eliminated?
That would be eliminated.
Okay.
That's one of the things that we would do is they have to pull that curb cut out and replace it, and along with any damage. Any project that's over a certain size or value has to meet that standard, and that always includes removing the unused curb cuts.
Okay. Thanks.
There's no sin quite like leaving a curb cut when you shouldn't. They show up 20 years later when you're looking at a new project. It's so irritating. So we'll make sure that gets out, yeah.
Any other questions for staff?
All right, now.
All right.
Thank you.
Would the applicant come forward and state your name and your address for the record?
Brad Christofferson, General Counsel for Valley Mental Health, address 2118 East, 3900 South, number 300 in Holiday.
All right, thank you. So have you had the opportunity to review the conditions for approval?
Yep, we did. I reviewed them with our executive team, and
Can you
we
comply
understand
with
them,
those
and-
conditions?
yes, we can.
All right. Do you have anything to add to the staff report we just heard?
You know, we've been meeting with Jared for 6 months, and Zach, and so they've been great to work with and helped us get our site plan to the situation that we're at tonight. So nothing further.
Okay.
They've covered everything pretty well.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we will open this particular agenda item for public comment. If anybody would like to comment, please come to the podium. And if you would state your name and the record, or name and your address for the record, please.
It's Rob Benson, 6195 Glen Oaks. I'm directly west of the unit. And I've got to say, done a good job. The building looks good. We're happy with it. And the building looks so good that I'm really bothered. I've got a small yard. I've got 2 telephone poles there. I've got 27 connections on one and 17 on the other. I've got to have 50 feet of coiled wire up on one and a spaghetti thing on the other. To me, under the guise of optical pollution, which I would classify this as, couldn't there be something done? Are there any ordinances, anything that tries to keep the telephone poles trimmed up or even bury them, since this is an ideal time? There's going to be all dug up everything. can we do anything to see if that could be a possibility? And I will say, I know there's a number of wires up there that are not being used. About a year and a half ago, and I don't know which company it was, came out and cut 6 wires. It was the phone company, one of the phone companies, cut 6 wires. So there were 6 more wires before then. And they just left them coiled in my yard. And I was a little disappointed at that. A few phone calls was able to straighten that up, though. But if something could be done just on that, I would love to see that. Other than that, I think it's going to look good. Appreciate it. That's my
All right,
comment.
thank you very much. Would anyone else like to comment regarding this agenda item? Come forward. If you'd state your name and your address for the record.
I'm Scott Lovell. I live at 891 East Holly Avenue. And I want to pass something out to you guys, if that's okay, just to kind of show the inconsistency of this use with this location.
That's way too big for me to consider.
So what I've done is I've gone to their website and I've just mapped all the locations I could find, just to kind of show where they're at and what their location is with respect to residences. So as we kind of go through them quickly, because I know I don't have a lot of time. First one, not even close to any residences. Second one, not even close. Third, you're across a busy road, Redwood Road, so pretty secluded. If this was going across 900 East, I could see that as a fit. It's not. It's going across Holly Avenue, which is a very small road. Next one, you back up to some. So there are some homes near it, but it kind of backs up to them. This is the 3809 West one. Next one, nothing. Next one, nothing. Next one, you're across 9th East, which, as I said, would be a fantastic location for it. Another one with none, until you get to the last one, where there is one that's in a similar location where it's right next to some homes. That's South Salt Lake, which I don't think is the city that we want to necessarily mimic. And so what I'm trying to show here is this is a fantastic center. It's in the wrong location. This has just been rezoned to R&B. That's a buffer. There is no buffer between this use and my house. There's nothing. There's a small little fence, and that's it. It impacts the value of my home, because if you have to choose between 2 homes that are the same, and one of those is in a residential neighborhood and one of those is next to some kind of treatment facility, which home are you going to pick? So there's only one way I can compete, and that's to lower the price of my home. So it definitely does impact things. A conditional use permit is an opportunity for, I think, the planning department to kind of work around zoning laws. I think with this being an RMB zone, this is not the zone that you work around. Just like residential, it's not a zone you work around. This is a commercial use. It belongs in a commercial setting. The last slide, if you go down and look at all those other RMB uses, I have no issue with any of those. I don't know that any of those needed a conditional use permit to go there, and that's exactly how it should be. And so, yes, it does impact my home. It impacts, I think, the other homes on Holly Avenue, and it should just be in a commercial zone where it belongs.
All right, thank you very much. Other comments, additional comments regarding this item? All right, we'll close public comment and ask Jared, staff, to address a couple of the points made by through public comment.
Sure. Thank you. Let me just go ahead and say, if I can address a couple of those issues. It is a commercial zone. The R&B zone is a commercial zone. We do allow residential uses in it, but it is a commercial zone. The conditional uses, we don't look at them as a staff, just to clear the point, we don't look at them as a staff as an opportunity to work around the zoning. There's nobody really that cares about zoning more than staff or the planning commission. So that point I'm not sure how to address really, but without going further into it, to say the R&B zone is specifically designed to do all of the right things for buffering. We don't have a zone that has more care taken into it that deals with the design of the building, as opposed to if this was commercial zoning, just standard commercial zoning, we were trying to front 9th East with standard commercial zoning to not let homes go derelict or run down on a busy street. It would be a 7-Eleven, and there wouldn't be any design considerations of that building. This is the right zone to do what we're trying to do with it. The other locations pointed out might have to do with other facilities that are like this or run by the same organization, but it is a public health facility, not a commercial facility. We look for we do control uses, and this use is allowed in the R&B zone. We don't allow for something like a car lot or a 7-Eleven or whatever. We use those choices for types of uses very carefully in this zone, and this does fit the bill. It's quiet. People are gone in the evening when you want to be in your residential neighborhoods without a lot of noise coming and going, things like that. So, and it's public health use. It's a good cause and should be a good neighbor. We feel like we're correct in assuming that it will be a good neighbor. Quiet building, looks residential. The scale and mass is appropriate. I don't know how to address the other issues other than to say that. So we do still feel like it's a good fit. The R&B zoning is in place, so that decision was made months ago when we went from ag zoning to R&B zoning, and the decision to go from ag zoning to R&B zoning was officially made when we changed the zoning, but the decision to allow for it and to support it was made a decade ago, waiting for these kinds of uses to come along for the properties to be ready to be rezoned, and we kind of committed as a city to support those rezonings back then because we felt like this was a zone that would play out well and do the work that it was designed to do. And I feel like as a staff member I've seen about 3/4 of them that have been done be developed, and I think they've all, generally speaking, worked. They've done the kinds of things, we've seen successes with them. A lot of the same concerns have been raised every time we've processed one, and they have not been borne out. We feel like it's doing a good job in the zone. So, anything else I can address for you that we didn't cover?
Jared, do you know approximately how many medical offices are in the building to the south?
How many different suites?
Yeah, different
I don't, I'm
suites.
sorry. It's
Yeah.
several.
I know it's quite a few. I'm just trying to, just for the sake of
Sure.
the gentleman, just try to help him understand, and do we know how many anticipated people will be attending? We said 30 employees, and then do we know how many?
It's one employee per 2 participants.
Okay.
The building's designed to handle up to 50 participants, but usually in the program at any given time, there's 30, 35.
Okay. So, you could have, one participant for 2 employees, or 2
Right.
participants for 1 employee?
Right. Two participants per 1 employee, per
Right.
1 staff member.
Right, so you could have 60 to 75 people
You
there.
could have 60, 75 people, but in a building this size, in a 15,000 square
Right.
foot building, that's what you would have.
Right, and you can see by looking at the map, the building to the south, there's similar parking. It looks like it's a similar size. And so I'm just curious, obviously the allowed uses are medical and small office building. So while it, treatment center is not a specific called out use, for all intents and purposes, the function of this is similar to a medical or small office building or a dental, correct?
Right. And the large majority of the things that we have are the buildings that we have done in the R&B zone have been optometrists,
Right.
dentists, multi-suite facilities for medical and different. We have the lawyer's building, we have some law offices and architecture, some real estate offices, things like that. So this fits right in line with those, yeah.
Jared, I'd like to make a comment. I think we try to collect this information in advance so we have an opportunity to be informed, to read it thoroughly, think it through, and talk to each other about it. So it's not 100% fair to give it to us at such short notice that we're not sure we can think it through and give you a good response. Having said that, looking through the pages, there's a variety of different facilities here. For example, an adolescent substance abuse, that's very different than this population. An outpatient drug rehab, that's very different than this use, acute children's extensive care. This is a wide variety of uses.
These are all exactly reasons that I refuse to look at the information, because it's presented to us without any preparation, without any advanced knowledge. And we do have a staff standing rule, I guess, for lack of a better word, that we will not review items that are not presented to us within a certain period of time and vetted by staff.
24 hours generally.
So because there's a wide variety there, we haven't had the chance to vet it, I don't think we can give it much weight. But in trying to respect the residents' concerns, I just know that the concerns I feel he's expressing in this packet are very different than the population that's actually going in.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No.
Nope.
Jared, is it fair to say that a school could, a charter school could have been located here?
I'd want to look at the code to be sure, but I think so.
A church?
Church, yeah.
All of those buildings would be of similar size or potentially even larger, correct?
Well, or potentially larger. The great thing about the R&B zone is that it allows us to kind of consider that scale in the design.
Right.
But yeah, they would all
Right.
be allowed as
Okay.
uses.
And a population that has more free reign. These
Oh,
folks
absolutely.
are contained
This
within the
is
building
controlled.
with a lot of supervision, 2 adults per 1 adult.
And is it fair to say that one could expect this agricultural zone to stay in the state that it was for the last 30 or 40 years, for the next 30 or 40 years into the future?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying. My
Well,
opinion
okay,
is,
if I bought a house across from this,
oh,
is it fair for me to assume that's always going to stay like that?
I wouldn't assume that anywhere in the world, actually, just because
Thank
in
you.
the business that I'm in, I've seen a lot of changes. But yeah, absolutely. And agricultural zoning is widely known. In this part of the valley, everybody knows ag zoning is a holding zone. It's going to be something else. That's typically the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you want to address his concerns about power lines? Or
Oh,
any?
yeah, thank you. I
Sorry.
apologize. So we can absolutely look into that. These kinds of buildings, I don't think that got addressed when we were looking at it in terms of the planning review group that looks at them, but we can certainly raise that issue with the power department and with Public Works. They can look at who's got utilities there and why that's such a mess. We can look into that. And he's right, the moment to maybe be able to address any of that would be right now when we're undergrounding some of the utilities. So we'll definitely bring that up. It's a good point. Appreciate it.
All right. Any other discussion by the commissioners?
Just if I could add to it, I just think this is a zone that's well thought out. It's a zone that's, as Jared said, has been around for quite some time, and I think the general feeling amongst residents, businesses, staff has been very positive towards this zone accomplishing exactly what it was designed to do, which is provide a buffer both in intended use and even look and feel between neighborhood and other businesses. And I think it's an appropriate use. I think the building's appropriate. And, like Commissioner Milkovich and Commissioner Markham said, I think we have a staff that prepares in advance, and any items that are coming in are certainly difficult for us to digest and process, on the moment. Compared to what the preparation we received from the staff reports. So I think it's a great use. I think the building fits in. We've already have precedents just to the south, and there's no reason to expect that this building would be any more impactful than, on the neighbors than the building that is already there to the south. So.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit allowing for a construction of an adult autism center on the property located at 6230 South, 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 13.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second.
And I'd like to second that motion.
And is there any additional discussion? So Jared, could you call a roll vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Deborah Crane requesting a conditional use permit to allow for an accessory dwelling unit to be located on the property addressed 4981 South Lincoln Street. And is the applicant here this evening? All right, we'll have you come up in a little bit. So Zach Smallwood's going to give us staff report.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioners. This is located on Lincoln Street, just south of 4800 South. It is a single-family home in the R18 zone, which allows for accessory dwelling units subject to a conditional use permit. The house is 2,800 square feet. The main dwelling, the proposed cottage house or accessory dwelling unit would be 998 square feet, which is less than the 1,000 that is allowed. And the second thing for that is that it has to be less than 40% of the main dwelling, which this amounts to about 36%. So it is going to be located in the back, fairly far back. I believe the setback for it was 157 feet or so. We verified that with fire, that they're okay with that. With it being an accessory dwelling unit, they're good with that kind of distance. They're not worried about it. As the fire chief said, he's not above having a few young bucks throw some hose all the way back there. So
Well, I think they could probably get to it from Three Fountains.
they could do that too, yes. Which leads me to my next point is that this is a double fronted lot. As you can see here, this is a private street, however, so it's kind of half a double fronted lot, half not. So that would also provide fire access if they absolutely need it. Here is a floor plan. It's allowed up to 2 bedrooms. They're proposing 2 bedrooms. It meets all the conditions there. This is elevation. It matches and complements the existing house pretty well. Here's a couple photos of the site. The way the house is situated is a little weird. So the front of the house actually faces north on it, so it's kind of turned on its side from that point. So it faces north, so you can see the house here. And then this is the backyard area. I always dislike trespassing on people's property, so I try to just do it from the road. So you can't really see, but that back barn down there will be demolished to allow for the cottage to go in. This is just a better view of the side view of the house as well. Like Jared had mentioned, Utah State Code requires that conditional use permits are allowed uses subject to addressing any potential negative impacts. So with that, we are recommending approval for this accessory dwelling unit, subject to the 8 conditions. The one I will mention that we like to put out there as well is that these are not allowed to be used as short-term rentals, such as Airbnb, VRBO, things like that. Those aren't allowed in the city at this time. So that's condition number 8 that I like to make sure is addressed as well.
Really glad we put that on there.
Any questions for me?
I just made the comment to Lisa. I'm very glad we added condition number 8.
I heard you.
So thank
Just
you.
kidding.
You did hear me?
I did hear you.
Well, everyone else did too, I guess. So.
I guess so.
I like it. I'm glad we have it on there.
It's all right.
For the record.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
So would ask the applicant to come forward. If you would state your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Deborah Crane, 4981 Lincoln Street.
And have you had an opportunity to review these conditions for?
Yes,
All right. And are you able to comply with those conditions?
yes.
All right. Do you have any additional information to provide us other than our staff report?
No.
All right.
I do have one question. On Zach, can you go back to the little map thing from the top? I just want to make sure I understand. One more.
There you go.
So can you help me understand what the new 4-inch concrete driveway is? We were trying to figure out what kind of car you'd drive on that. It says new 4-inch concrete driveway.
I think it It's depth.
Okay, that's what we were debating, but I'm like, I'm not real comfortable with approving
I have
a.
a scooter, but I don't think even that would.
That's what Commissioner Ney said, is he's like, she's
mention
going to ride a scooter, and I said, okay, fair enough, but we just want to make sure, so that's the depth of it, okay, that's
Or a
fine.
horse.
Or a horse, no, that's a small horse.
The horse is gone.
Thank you, so it's a good solid driveway, and, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I will now open this agenda item for public comment. If anyone would like to make comment, please come forward. Last opportunity. All right, seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it up to the commission for discussion or a motion.
Well, now that we know it's not a 4-inch driveway, I'm more comfortable.
It was
that is
excellent
why we want
clarification.
this material provided to us in advance so that we can see those things and ask those questions, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
Details.
All right.
Details.
Well, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow accessory dwelling unit at the property address 4981 South Lincoln Street, subject to conditions 1 through 8.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any additional discussion? All right, Jared, we call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes. All right, thank you, and good luck with your project.
and your scooter.
Scooter.
Wear a helmet.
Yeah,
It's exciting to see that.
it is.
Agenda item number 6, Express Car Wash requesting a conditional use permit to construct a quick service car wash at the property address 4608 South 900 East. And is the applicant here tonight for that? All right, we'll have you come up in a little bit, and Zach is going to give us a report.
Perfect. This is located at the very northern border of the city. It borders with Mill Creek to the north. There is a CubeSmart storage facility kind of to the south and west of it. Car washes are a allowed use with a conditional use. Sorry, losing my train of thought there. So with that, this is the proposed site plan. They are proposing a north and south access. The city engineer has asked that the south access be removed. However, through some other discussions, we are going to be working with the applicant to create a site plan that can conform with engineering's requirements and provide them some potential options there as well. The applicant has proposed 22 parking stalls here. Our current zoning regulations base parking for car washes based on a very different type of car wash. It's the Old Bay style where you take a little water gun and you spray. The Planning Commission has the power, I guess, to say to determine the amount of stalls that are required.
Authority is a better
Authority. There we go. I really just wanted to say you have the power and all that fun stuff. So has the authority to address parking. Staff believes the proposed 22 stalls are adequate for this use. I believe that they can provide adequate amount there. Here is, I don't know what the difference is. One's showing an aerial and one's not. So they're the same site plan. The stacking here allows for at least 6 cars in each lane. So, at least probably 18 total, which is more than adequate, I believe. You'll probably get a busy Saturday, but other than that, I think you'll just get a steady stream there. Floor plan, you're really looking at a floor plan for a car, I guess. And not a lot of people are going to be walking through that except for a manager. Here are a couple building elevations. The materials here are masonry around the area with some hardy board and some metal paneling as well. Some elevation or some renderings here, orange colors with grays, those types of things. The one thing that was addressed in your staff report was the landscaping requirements and the 10-foot buffer between the street and the setback. They didn't have any specifically laid out, so they're going to need to work with staff to obtain a landscape plan that meets 17.68. Couple pictures of the property. There are currently 3 homes on the property that they are proposing to demolish. And there is a substantial grade as well that this goes down to. Let's see. And to address the property to the north for noise issues and any potential noise issues, during the site visit, I noticed there's a lot of dense foliage on the townhome side of it. There's a lot of trees on that area. There's an existing fence there, and we are requiring that the applicant install a new 8-foot masonry fence across their property as well, which we anticipate that will mitigate those noise impacts there. So with that, state code requires that conditional uses are used to address potential negative impacts to the property, and if those can be mitigated, then we shall approve a conditional use. So with that, we are recommending approval for Express Car Wash, subject to the 10 conditions before you.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Zach, with the fence to the north, if, obviously the townhomes may want to keep that vinyl fence. They may prefer
Sure.
that look to whatever masonry fence goes up. This would not affect that fence since it is on their property.
That's correct. Yeah, they could keep the vinyl fence if they decide, or they can work with our applicants as well and just replace it as well if they'd like.
All right, thank you.
Can I just make a general comment? 22 stalls feels like it is way, way, way
Overkill.
overparked. There's no real lobby inside of this place. I just don't understand the rationale behind asking for that when really the cars are going to be queuing and leaving.
Sure.
What's the employee count at a place like this?
Well, unless there's 22
Three?
employees inside that car wash scrubbing it down,
Are
that three?
those aren't vacuuming bays, are they?
They are all vacuum
They are
bays, I believe.
vacuuming bays.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay,
all right, fair enough. Let them have a vacuum.
okay.
But I understand. I just
Travis doesn't vacuum his car, and so
I don't
he's
wash my car in full disclosure.
never been to one, so he doesn't know what it's like.
To be fair, the Sonic Car Wash on 6500 South State. Just thinking, how many vacuuming bays they have there. I don't know that they even have 22, and that's an extremely large facility.
Right.
But
They do, yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
I see
I
the
agree.
logic behind it.
Yeah, I do as well. I can agree with that as well. We just took at what they proposed because I saw that as adequate, more
That's
than
fine,
adequate.
Okay. You won't have to wait for a vacuum.
Yeah. So I mean,
Travis,
if you
you
want
should
to
go.
address that and require less, that's fine too. And they provide the 22, that's fine. It's up to you guys, to
Okay.
be honest.
All right, any other questions for staff? All right, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll have the applicant come up and state your name and your address for the record, please.
Great, thank you. My name is Jeff Wood. Address is 3135 South Richmond Street in Salt Lake City, Utah, 84106.
And have you had an opportunity to review the conditions here?
I have.
And are you able to comply with them?
Yes, I am. And just a few notes based on the comments. One, I want to thank staff and engineering for working with us, and we're going to continue to try and figure out that double point of access, and grateful for your willingness to work with that. On the 22 parking spaces, that was what we proposed. It would be fantastic if we could maybe reduce that to 20, and the only reason being is we continue to refine the parking plan. That will accommodate staff parking. We'll probably have at most 4 employees on site at any time, maybe 5 if we get really busy. So that would include staff parking and then sufficient parking for, for patrons as they come through the parking area. But if we could reduce that to 22, that would be great. That gives us a little bit of flexibility, or 20, excuse me, gives us a little bit of flexibility as we continue to refine the parking. And if the access ends up changing some things a little bit, that maybe gives us a little bit of flexibility there. Not a big deal if you want to keep it at 22.
is 20 a number? I mean, how do you come to the number 20? Is it do you honestly anticipate 15 patrons to be parked there on top of who's queuing through the wash?
What we want to avoid is anybody coming out of the tunnel on a really busy Saturday and seeing that the parking or that there's no open vacuum spaces and getting frustrated and then not coming back.
So
to
it's really
us.
just perception more
It's
than anything.
perception.
Okay.
And we don't anticipate that they will all be full, but if a very busy time, we want to keep our patrons happy. So it seems like overkill, I agree, but it makes sense for us.
Okay.
But you said you're still figuring it out, and so you feel like 20, you're not going to come back and say, well, we'd really like to do 18. I mean, is there a minimum number that you're looking for, or is that 20?
20 would be the minimum.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
But now that would be vacuum bays and employee
And
parking.
employee parking.
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a total of 20 plus the
And an ADA. Yeah.
Yeah, so 21 with the ADA.
Yes. Great.
Okay.
You know, and just to be clear, you know, there are a couple of items that you're kind of throwing yourself at the mercy of staff as far as the landscape plan and the engineering plan for access and that. So, you know, as long as you feel good about that, I don't see any reason to doubt their sincerity in working with you on that. But that is something that if this were to go forward, you're basically locked into those recommendations.
Yeah, and my honest feeling is I think we'll get there on 2 points of access. That is a critical component for us. If it ends up being 1 point of access only, then we're going to have to reevaluate and figure out whether we want to move forward or not. But I think there's a will to figure out a way to make sure that we have 2
Okay.
points of egress.
Yeah, just wanted to be clear on that you know, that is a definite condition tonight, so.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I have one more question. So staff talked a little bit about the grade change, or didn't talk about it, but mentioned it. So can you tell us a little bit about what you might anticipate for that grade change, which is about 3 feet below the level of the sidewalk?
From the highest point to the lowest point, it's almost, I want to say, like a 9-foot grade
Okay.
change. So I think it falls on the north side, from the north end on the east to the west. I think it's about a 6-foot grade change. From that point to the south west point is, I think it's about 9 feet. We intend to raise the site. We'll bring in additional site, retain that area, and bring it up, not to the street level. There will be some grade, but it'll be a balancing of the site, and that level of engineering and detail, we're looking forward to having Nick help us on that. So we do anticipate raising the site.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will open this agenda item for public comment. Would anyone like to comment? Please come forward. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Kathleen Hogan, 884 East Red Sage Lane. If your picture could go back to the first one, well, you can, that shows the condos. Oh, okay, as you can see, our condos, you can see 5 of them up there. I'm on the homeowners board for the Mill Creek condos, and I also happen to live at one of them that will be directly behind or across from this. There are just a few questions that I hope that maybe you can answer. What are your hours of operation going to be?
Ma'am, please address them to us, and then we'll write them down, and then he can come and address those.
Concern of the water supply, hours that they will be operating, concern for the lighting that they will have reflecting into the homes there. The signage, will it be on their building? Where will it be? Will it again affect the properties behind them? We don't really care if they use both entries. I know they had applied for 2 entries and you had said one. I'm not opposed to having a car wash there. We're just concerned about the hours, the lighting, and signage that might affect all the homes.
Yep.
And that's
All right.
it.
Excellent question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Could would you like to come up and answer some of those?
You want to close the,
Public hearing?
see if there's any more public comment?
Excuse me. So are there any additional public comments on this agenda item?
And then close it.
Thank you, Scott. So we'll close public comment and now ask you to come forward.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate the questions. The hours of operation, we anticipate 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That in the winter months, sometimes those get shortened because it gets dark and patrons are not coming past 6 o'clock. But during the summer hours, we definitely choose to be open 8 to 8. And I would ask that, assuming that's acceptable, 8 to 8 is what we anticipate. In terms of the line, I will tell you this is a unique layout from a car wash standpoint because not only can we stack 18 behind the building, if you see the long drive that leads in from the north entrance, that's actually,
That's about the lighting.
just to point it out, so you could stack cars theoretically all down that entry as well. So I don't anticipate any issue. It's what we actually, one of the things we really like about the layout of this site is we could stack a ton of cars. And we're worried about stacking too because we don't want the perception to be that we're always busy. And so people look at that huge line and then they drive away. So there's plenty of stacking and we don't anticipate any backup into 9th East. Signage, there will be signage. We anticipate signage on the building facing 9th East as well as some sort of signage out on 9th East, but we will be, respectful and careful. If we need to put it on the south end of the site, that's fine with us. That actually is preferable. It's closer to Walmart and the other commercial uses as well.
Well, we can probably have staff address
And they will.
rules with the signage.
Correct.
We have specific
Yep.
requirements.
Okay, yep, we're happy to comply with those.
And I think the resident was asking about lighting more than
Parking
lines, so
lot.
parking lot lights or headlights.
Yeah, so with the 8 foot, we considered that, and with the 8 foot fence, we hope that would prevent any lights that as they come out of the tunnel, they'll be protected.
Okay.
And I believe there's about a 10-foot buffer that's full of landscaping as well, so the lighting, I don't anticipate that being an issue, and we would follow any line or lighting code as it relates to photometrics or things of that nature.
I apologize for not knowing this, but does the car wash run so they come out toward the residence or they come out south toward the,
So the exit is what they come
Exit
through
to
the
the
tunnel,
north.
they head north
Yeah,
toward
Head
the-
north and then they come out.
They head north, yes.
And then she did make a comment also about water supply, and just to make sure that that's more self-contained and treated and
Yes.
pressure and
That'll meet all of whatever the city requires in terms of,
And,
oil
and
gas
actually,
separation.
I think the water supplies will be separated because the townhomes are not in Murray. As my understanding is, this is the most northern property. So Murray City's water supply would end with this car wash. You would have whatever water supply is in place, and that is a different source. So it would not affect pressure or volume or anything like that.
I think you got them all though.
All right.
You did.
Jared, would you like to address a little bit more for public about signage and how the signage would be addressed through this process?
Do you mean Zach or?
Or Zach, excuse me.
Trying to steal his thunder.
So signage-wise, we do allow a certain amount of signage to be attached to the building, so that would be okay. I believe it's 3 square foot for every.
2 square feet per linear foot of building.
Yes, so 2 square feet for every linear foot of building. And then what I think I'm seeing here as well, if I'm looking at this right, this little piece right here looks like is what they're proposing for possibly a monument sign.
Okay.
I believe you'll have to forgive me because I'm not 100% sure. We, as you guys know, have just a new sign code will be adopted on Tuesday, and I am not well versed in that code yet. So that one I'll have to look at a little bit more in depth, but I know that we kind of dissuade from what's those things that Jim hates?
Pole signs.
Pole signs, thank you.
It's harder to get a pole sign under
is.
the new sign codes.
Right.
It'll probably be a monument sign, so it's low profile.
Yeah, it will be low profile. And then one thing I wanted to address just quickly was with car lights and lighting through that. We had discussed previously about if the applicant could flip the building so that the dryers, for instance, the noise that we were anticipating would be flipped onto the commercial side. But finding out that that wasn't feasible, this actually kind of works a little bit better because you only have one car coming out at a time in the tunnel, as opposed to if they were able to flip it, you would have at least 3 cars sitting, potentially 3 cars with headlights.
Or 18.
Sitting there. Yeah, 18 with just blaring off into the neighboring property. So we think that with just this one tunnel with one car going at a time, it's a little bit easier than all those.
But it's also an 8-foot masonry wall on
It
that
is,
side.
yes.
So, I mean, you know, when Travis goes through with his monster truck, the lights may be high, but beyond that,
Yeah, exactly.
the lights should stay below that 8-foot.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And then
Travis never washes.
water supply, and I believe you addressed it. Most of the time, the water's recycled. I'm not too concerned about that. I don't anticipate, and like you said, it's on the different
Water system.
different public works system. And yeah, they explained hours as well.
Did we talk about the lighting in the parking lot?
We
have strict
don't.
restrictions.
Yeah, we don't technically have any. Maybe Jared can address this because he's grabbing
If
the
I
mic.
can, yeah. I didn't mean, that's involuntary, sorry. So we do actually, in commercial zones where they're abutting residential properties, we don't allow lights higher than 18 feet. And we always require, regardless, we require the hooded lights and things like that to try to get to 0-foot candles at the property lines. And Nick's the designer on this. He's done that a million times and can produce that. And kind of almost an afterthought for a project like this that would be the case. So, and light pollution, like the applicant said, this is primarily a daytime function. So you're not going to have a lot of cars coming here after dark. That's not really their target time. So lights in the parking lot would probably be limited just for safety, and there'll be those hooded lights, so you won't have light pollution.
So for that exact reason, it might be an ideal use of the property.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah.
One last thing I wanted to address was parking. I know that we had talked about the potentially of reducing by 2 more spots or something like that. You guys are able to reduce the parking minimum. So if you decide, like you were mentioning, like 18 or potentially even to 15 stalls, that's fine. That they don't have to build to 15. They can build more. That's just the minimum. So if you guys decide that you want to say you don't have to have 20, you can bring that down if you want.
In establishing a minimum, are we also establishing a maximum, or
You are not establishing a maximum. So
Can I
All right,
ask-
any other questions?
Yeah, I have one since you brought it up.
Oh,
The volume of the dryers. So bay opens and closes, or it's open and exposed through each vehicle coming through? And then what's the county's requirements for decibel levels at the property line?
man.
You brought it up.
I don't know. But I believe, did you guys mention that it was going to be like in the winter, you were going to have a door?
There is a door. It will most likely be up during busy hours, and it's not going to go up and down and up and down and up and down all the time. But there is a door, and it usually is just typically when we're not busy or during the winter time, we close the heat in the building,
Yeah.
so there's less ice. But it just, some of that depends on the volume of traffic that's flowing through there. Blowers are not as loud as you would think that they are. And there's actually some things that we can do to mitigate sound.
should he be at a mic for the record?
He's already said it, and he's already said it all.
Go
so-
through it as well. So,
Mike.
yeah, just for the record, that he mentions that there will be a gate that goes up and down, and that mentioned that the blowers they have ways of mitigating that as well.
Can I make one comment, since I know way more about decibels at property lines than I know, because of
Yes, you do.
this application that will go unnamed. We can easily measure those decibels at property lines, and the distance alone here from here to the condos is greater than we had in that previous case. My daughters actually live in a townhome right next to a car wash like this with dryers, and I have an app on my phone measuring decibels. It's not as accurate as the good meters, but I was curious doing it, and I'm only getting 40 at on their balcony, and that's
Good.
about 17 below what you would expect for county health regs.
That would be less than a wild party at the current dwellings.
At the current dwellings. Yeah, exactly. That's about the case. So it shouldn't be a decibel problem, but we can always measure that too and make sure that it complies. The wall will do a lot to deflect that sound out too.
Can I state that I'm impressed that Jared knew that, and I appreciate that you did, because I'd hate to estimate and then come in later and say, guess what, you are louder than is loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It gave me an excuse to hang around my daughter's house without seeming overly protective.
I want to thank Jared too, because I wouldn't have known that, and I probably should have.
I knew he knew that because of a previous
Jared.
applicant.
9-month application.
You'll have nightmares sometimes.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. So I'll bring it up here for any other discussion or a motion.
Well, I'll just say, since I did think 22 stalls is over part, I would recommend we suggest 15, and then
Minimum.
that gives them plenty of wiggle room, and they can always put in more. It's no problem, but just to make sure that they don't have to come back to us and ask for additional parking. Let's make it easy on them.
Go right ahead and do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy to do that. Okay. I will make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to allow for the proposed car wash on the property located at 4608 South 900 East, subject to conditions 1 through 10, with a modification to condition number 7 to have a minimum of 15 parking spaces and 1 ADA van accessible space.
Can I second that motion?
All right. I have a motion and a second. Is there additional discussion?
Nope.
So, Zach, would you like to call the vote, please?
All right. Commissioner Ney,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkevich,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodbury,
Yes.
Commissioner Markham,
Yes.
and Chair Hacker.
Yes. So,
Got your last
motion
name for me.
passes. Good luck with your business, and welcome. Thank you for doing it in Murray. All right. Other business. Staff, do you have any other business?
Just one or two quick things, just by way of information. So, July is coming up. The first Thursday of July, when we would normally have a planning commission meeting, is the 4th of July. Unless any of you have a burning desire to be here that evening with us, we're going to go ahead and just have one planning commission in July on the subsequent meeting on the 18th. There are also, just so that you know, there are a number of ordinances, land use text amendments coming your way over the summer. Cannabis was made legal in some respects in the state this spring, and we have the summer to comply with that and come up with ordinances. That's being written. We are looking, we have an application or a potential application for short-term rentals. So be thinking about your opinions about that. We'll try to feel you out a little bit about that before we receive the application and get your thoughts on it. What's the other one I was just thinking about? There's a couple other big ones coming this way. So in addition to subdivisions and zone changes and all the standard things, we'll have a couple of text amendments this summer to work on as well.
Mr. Hall?
No, probably not.
Can I have two quick comments?
Sure.
I greatly appreciate the very short and nice agendas that have occurred for the last
Yeah.
how many months? It's amazing. And second, just a plug that we've made several times, because I was kind of somewhat attacked in a teacher's lounge today. If we have the opportunity to increase our enforcement, can support that. I was attacked. She moved from Murray because she couldn't get code enforcement.
Oh, sure. That's a good point, and it comes up a lot. We
Not
try
really
to
related
do what we
tonight,
can,
but-
but it's not a perfect amount of staff for it, but we do what we can. So, and if we ever have the opportunity, we'll certainly increase it, and we'll keep plugging for that. We are actually looking into an auto sales ordinance at this point too. We'll bring that this summer. requiring minimums. Travis, I was looking at Travis when I was trying to say Zach.
Well, we all need minimum amount.
A minimum number of Travises. How about a maximum number of
Exactly.
Travises?
Number of Travises in your lives. Zach's been starting to do the benchmarking. We're definitely one of the only cities not regulating very much for auto sales, especially small auto sales. So we have a couple of different options going forward, but we'll bring something to you this summer because it's going to be a while. It'll probably take us 18 months to rewrite the zoning code. We're not going to wait for that. We have a short list of things that we want to do outside of that. For fun, so you know, we also did get funding. I don't think we've spoken since we received the funding. We got approved for $75,000 for a study of the Fashion Place West transit station. So we're gonna be moving forward with that. That's exciting. That'll happen this summer. The money's available.
This is a great organization that gave you
the
that.
transit
It is.
platform.
Well, actually, we're gonna look to probably create a. We're still sort of molding it. The WFRC is putting up the bulk of that money. When I say bulk, I mean all but $5,000 of it. So the serious bulk of that money.
That's a great group.
It is a good group. There are a couple of standout individuals in it.
Conflict of interest.
But we're looking at different options for that. We want them to look at. We want in the study to look at a connection to the Fashion Place Mall, how that can be made better, and then potentially give us some sort of a zone that's more like the Fireclay TOD zone that's specifically written for that area. That would then guide the redoing of the platform and give us a zone for that area. We don't know exactly yet, but that's kind of the direction we're headed. So more on that soon. Just wanted to make you aware.
Is the plan to restrict the cannabis industries in the same zone as the sexually oriented businesses?
You know, I think it's going to be more broad than that.
There's that one corner,
Yeah.
you know, and
No, they're gonna go on the Gordon property.
Jim's just starting to work on that now for us, so we'll see. But yeah, probably something like that. Anyway, there you go. I don't really have anything else. I'm just wasting your time at this point, so I'll be quiet and let you do your thing.
Anything else?
No, it's adjourned. Motion to adjourn.
Motion? Second?
second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. We're adjourned.
Good meeting.